here, here being New Hampshire, the first of the 14 states that I've never been to, so pretty cool that I got to walk here. The second was Maine, so a little motivation to keep walking to get there. These first couple of days in New Hampshire have been great. I had some family visiting, so I got to hang out with my mom and my aunt, relax, have some fun, some great food, and they slack packed me a bit. So I was able to chew through the miles leading up to the White Mountains. So tomorrow I'll actually start the Whites, kicking it off with a slack pack of mucilage. And then the next day I'll be taking my pack into the woods and going the rest of the way through. Lots of anticipation around the Whites, meant to be pretty difficult. So I am nervous, but also excited because the views are supposed to be incredible. It's day one of the Whites, about to head up Mount Moosilauke. Moosilauke has a lot of these wood wedge stairs to help get up some of the steep, slicker rocks. If Vermont was mud, New Hampshire is roots. The waterfall follows the steepest mile of trail down Moosilauke, so even on a dry day, the rocks are still pretty wet. There are a ton of different trails up here in the Whites. It's not just the AT that goes across these mountains. First peak of the Whites down, made it to the top of Moosilauke. And you know, they say the Whites are hard, but it's worth it for these views. I didn't see a marker, but up here on top of Moosilauke is also the 1800 mile marker. So officially just under 400 miles to go. Day 2 in the Whites, starting the Kinsmans. It's rock scaling time. I'm gonna earn the view with a lot of rock climbing to get to the top of the Kinsmans. The boulders just keep coming. This ascent has actually been a lot of fun. The climb up Kingsman is no joke, but I just met some southbounders who said there's a clear view at the top, so hopefully it makes it all worth it. Stopping briefly to take in a bit of a view in case I get to the top of the Kinsmans and it's all fog like it was yesterday. Good morning on day 136. It is day 3 in the Whites, and the first half of my day will be 5 miles down the Kinsmans and into town to resupply in Lincoln, probably getting 4 to 5 days of food to last me all the way to Gorham, It's a pretty conservative estimate. I probably won't need that much, but with the weather up here being so unpredictable, just in case I need to zero at a shelter, I want to make sure I have enough food. Catching a bit of the view as I head down the Kinsmans on day 3. My resupply is complete and my pack is so heavy with 4.5 days of food. Not looking forward to climbing a few 4,000 footers with this on my back. I just dumped out about half of this water bottle, saving me 1.1 pounds of weight for this ascent. The White Mountains charge a fee for all of the tent sites and shelters, but so far I found it to be well worth it. They include things like weather reports, super well maintained privies and bear boxes, etc. So really nice shelters. Just 2.6 more miles today to Liberty Spring campsite. I'm now 3 days deep into the Whites, and it's been a nice shake-up since the White Mountains function a little differently than the rest of the AT. Slackpacking Moose Lock southbound was a good move to just dip my toe and start off, see what the Whites were about. There's a lot of fear-mongering on trail about the Whites being terrifying and so hard and just all this conjecture and I needed to see what it was about for myself. So doing just a 10-mile day without my pack and getting in there to see what it's like was nice. Although I did find that for that mountain in particular, I felt like I could have kept going, so almost wish I did have my pack. In contrast, yesterday I did the Kinsmans and they were way harder than I thought that they would be. Standing at 5-6, there were a good number of times both on the ascent and on the descent that I couldn't reach to a next log or rock, so there was a lot of pulling myself up with my arms or jumping down, and it was scary to do that because it was raining and the rocks were super slick and a lot of them just like straight up like rock walls that they put there and said climb up, this is the trail. I'll admit it, I cried at one point. It was a rough day. Today was gorgeous. The weather was amazing. I only did about 8 miles. I ended up narrowing going into town, into Lincoln to resupply. So it was a nice reset. Tomorrow is going to be a longer day over Franconia Ridge. So a couple of peaks, all over 4,000 feet. The day looks nice in terms of weather, but thunderstorms at night. So we'll see how quickly these roll in and how far I can get. Getting up there, but not above tree line just yet. The trees are starting to get shorter and the wind is picking up a bit, so getting close to the top. All right, first legit view on top of Little Haystack. Man, does it quickly get cold up here. The AT in the Whites really is just rock climbing, except without any gear and a huge pack on, and no arm strength, because you've only used your legs for the past 5 months. The White Mountain Range, or the Whites, is huge. It takes up over a quarter of the state of New Hampshire and is home to some of the tallest peaks in New England. Actually, the tallest peak, which is Mount Washington, stands at over 6,000 feet and has its own weather station on top even. Some of the craziest weather patterns in the world. I believe it holds the highest ever recorded wind speed at over 200 miles per hour. So that is definitely one that you need to plan for, check in advance, and make sure you're going over on a good weather day. That goes for the whole presidential range within the Whites, which is mostly above tree line. So the AT runs through the Whites for about 100 miles, starting with Moosilauke and ending with the Wildcats if you're going northbound. It is a very steep and rocky and often slick terrain, so I certainly have my work cut out for me this week. The AMC runs a series of huts throughout the park where tourists can pay, I think it's $180 for a bunk in a shared room with other people. You also get breakfast and dinner with your stay, and that's it. There's no electricity, no hot water, no showers, no trash. You have to pack everything in and out, but as do the staff. So they're all in remote places. So everything that you eat or use, all supplies are trucked in and out by the staff as they hike in and out of their job. Through hikers don't often use them just because $180 doesn't make sense when you have your tent on your back or could use the shelters. But you can stop in and get leftovers from what the paying customers don't eat for breakfast and dinner, and you can also get things like soup and baked goods throughout the day. So it's a nice place to fuel and warm up. There are no sponge baths, let alone showers available at the huts, and the toilets are these composting toilets, so they don't actually flush. But they do have actual sinks with running water, so you do get to wash your hands, which is nice. All of the trails in the Whites have different names, so you have to look out for the little AT in parentheses to make sure that you're taking the right one through the park. One of the many phrases that you hear often on the AT is that people pack their fears. So that means some people pack way too much weight in food because they're afraid they'll run out and go hungry, or some people will pack tons of toilet paper, like an unnecessary amount, because the thought of running out and having to use leaves just horrifies them. For me, my pack my fears is definitely battery life, keeping my phone charged, my headphones, my satellite device, all of it. I've been carrying around this anchor brick. There are these 4 blue lights that you can see that indicate how charged it is. It has yet to drop below 2 dots in between town runs, regardless of how much I use it to keep my stuff charged. So I've still been carrying it the whole time. It's way too heavy. It's more than I need, but definitely my fear. Lincoln and Lafayette are next. Just summited Mount Lincoln. It's cool to look back at the ridge behind to see what I've already hiked today. This place kind of has Machu Picchu vibes. Made it to the top of Lafayette. It's crazy, 3 peaks today so far, all of them views. The climb up Garfield was a doozy, but luckily continuing the trend of amazing views at the top today. Next up is Franconia Ridge. Starting the walk over Franconia Ridge. Walking over the ridge is beautiful. I think it's a few miles on here above tree line before dipping back down. This is definitely my favorite day in the Whites so far. The sun is shining, finally getting a view, gorgeous terrain. There are supposed to be some thunderstorms tonight, so I have to appreciate this while I have it. Off the ridgeline, back to rock climbing. Starting a 6.2 mile descent. Looks pretty steep. Let the climbing begin. I thought going up was bad. Whew, these slick rocks going down are pretty scary. It's going to be a long day in the rain. So much slick rock. Looks like the views will all be canceled today. The trail was a river in Vermont, but in New Hampshire, it's a literal jagged waterfall. I miss the Franconia Ridge. Simpler times. Back into the alpine zone, and the wind is gushing, so that means we're close to the next peak. Well, I made it. The view is gone. It started raining. It's getting awfully slippery. A little freaky. This is the top of South Twin. No views. 2 more shots today on Guyot in New Zealand. We'll see. Yesterday was another cold and wet day. Several peaks, but no views. The hiking in the Whites is quite difficult. Lots of up and down, lots of really steep rocks, so not getting the views is a real bummer. Luckily, the day before on Franconia Ridge, I had gorgeous weather and got to see the views, so at least I know people aren't lying when they say it is worth it on a nice day. This morning I woke up, it is pretty cold, not freezing. Water wasn't frozen in bottles, but it sure felt like it getting out of the sleeping bag. It's overcast now, so we'll see what the day brings. The goal is to get to the Namen tent site, which is right before the presidentials, which I'll hike tomorrow. Those are, for the most part, above tree line, and it is a long stretch, and you're not allowed to camp above tree line, both protecting the nature up there as well as it just not being safe in case there's a storm and there's such inclement weather in these mountains. So let's see. Let's get to Namen. First of the presidentials. Beautiful view, but quite honestly, it's all starting to look the same. Would trade back that last mile of terrifying rock scrambles for this view. 332 more miles until I summit Katahdin in Maine. Good morning, White Mountains. We're leaving Namen tent site bright and early to try to beat the weather on top of Mount Washington. Up here on top of Pierce, I think is the most calm moment I've had in the Whites. I have it all to myself early in the morning. The wind isn't too bad. It's absolutely beautiful. Really nice way to start the day. Here are the train tracks for the tourists to get up Mount Washington. About 5 more miles to Mount Washington, the highest mountain in the Northeast. I'm now on the other side of what I initially claimed to be Mount Washington, and I'm looking at another one in front of me that doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on at the top. So I think I still have a ways to go. My depth perception up here on the ridge clearly isn't great. All right, I made it to the top of second, not Mount Washington. I'm thinking it must be that one with all the towers on top. It looks the highest to me. Time will tell if we turn the corner and there's another higher one. Confirmed this is Mount Washington ahead. About a mile and a half of loose rocks to get there. The rocks leading up to Mount Washington remind me of the ones in Palmerton, Pennsylvania. Just these loose rocks, but they're a lot less difficult now that I've been through the whites. These just kind of feel like a piece of cake. You have to work for the climb up Mount Washington, unless you're taking the train or driving up. But that's cheating. When the weather is nice and there's no rock slide trying to kill me, this park really is gorgeous. The rock cairns have been super helpful on the ridge today because it's really hard to tell on these rocks where's the actual path. I made it to the summit. There's so many clean people and no view. It's weird to go from being in the woods for so long and then coming up to see so many people. I'm on what's known as the flattest 5 miles of New Hampshire, and man does it feel good. Shaking out my sore knees, moving quickly, not sliding down rocks. The little things you appreciate when the climbing all around it is so hard. I survived the whites. It was touch and go there for a little while. When I walked into New Hampshire, I had no idea that this is what hiking was. To me, it was dirt paths, lots of up and downs, not so much just really slick, kind of scary rock climbing. It was hard for me to get through this state. Man. But I will say the days that I got the most kind of flustered and freaked out by some of the rock walls that I was staring at, having to climb up them or get down them and try not to die because they were so slick, and I just felt like I didn't have the strength to pull me and my pack up. The more badass I felt the next day once I got through it. So would I go to the whites again? No, absolutely not. Literally never. But I guess I can say that I'm glad that I did it on the AT and I got through them. Man, 13 out of 14 states done. And that's all for this week. I'm going to walk into Maine tomorrow, the 14th and final state. Crazy.
Gatorade water and candy bars offered out of people's cars. Yes, I have that Clementine. Thank you, and you are so kind. To your friends from